We hope you enjoy this audio-only podcast. You can watch the full video versions on our YouTube channel at All Things Unexplained. There we share visuals, documents, and extended discussions you won't hear anywhere else. While you're there, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new video. But for now, enjoy this audio version of All Things Unexplained.
All Things Unexplained.
So some of that, I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.
All right, Unexplained Ones, this is Dr. Melton. Welcome back to All Things Unexplained. This episode, I'm going to update you on a possible X account for General Neil McCasland, who has been missing since February of this year. But first, if you could hit the subscribe button, and don't be intimidated by that word subscribe because we are absolutely free. It's one of the best ways you can support the channel. We do weekly content on aliens, Bigfoot, UFOs, astrophysics, and everything in between. So if that sort of thing is for you, hit the subscribe button. And if you also comment on the videos, that will enter you into a chance at our giveaways. So first, subscribe to All Things Unexplained, then leave a comment. That's it. You'll be entered into our giveaways. We'll get into that more at the end of the video, and thanks for being a part of the Unexplained Ones. So full credit to Grider on X. Give him a follow at high earth orbit _ because Grider has been looking into the possible connection between this X account and it being General Neil McCasland's for quite a while now. Matter of fact, he's the first person I know of that was making that connection. And I'll admit, at first, when Grider started making the connection, I wasn't so sure about it. But as time has went on with this case, I do believe that he could be on to something. So go over to X after this video, find at high earth orbit _ give Grider a follow. And the X account in question here is called Electric Propulsive Spacecraft Systems. That's at TMB Spaceships on X. One of the interesting things about this account is that it has blocked many of the people in ufology on UFO Twitter, or UFO X as it is. Grider believes that that's because General McCasland really had a deep disdain, if not a hatred, for a lot of the people in ufology. Now, I don't know about McCasland's hatred for people in ufology, or specifically on UFO Twitter, but I do know that McCasland was certainly being drugged more and more into the topic, especially after the WikiLeaks email between John Podesta and Tom DeLonge, which we've been over here on this channel before. That email was from Tom DeLonge to John Podesta on January 25th, 2016. This would have been just after Tom DeLonge met with McCasland for an extended meeting. And DeLonge said he mentioned he's a skeptic. He's not. I've been working with him for 4 months. I just got done giving him a 4-hour presentation on the entire topic a few weeks ago. Trust me, the advice has already been happening on how to do all this. He just has to say that out loud, but he is very, very aware, as he was in charge of all of the stuff. When Roswell crashed, they shipped it to the laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. General McCasland was in charge of that exact laboratory up to a couple of years ago. He not only knows what I'm trying to achieve, he helped assemble my advisory team. He's a very important man. Best, Tom DeLonge. So ever since that email, McCasland was getting more and more drug into the UFO topic, whether he wanted to or not. And that might explain part of his disdain for UFO Twitter, for people involved in UFOs. But to get a really great explainer on the connection between the X account, TMB Spaceships, and how it relates to General McCasland, let's head over to Grider's X account, and we'll check out a portion of a video he made on this topic, and I will link that video here. In the video, you should be able to click on it somewhere up there, and I'll have a link to it in the show description.
Neil McCasland's Facebook. That's him. That's his Facebook. And I found something interesting. Look at his work description. United States Air Force engineer, 38 years and 1 month. June 1975 to July 2013. Describes himself as a USAF engineer too. Then you look at TMBS spaceships. Went to elementary school back in the early 60s. Neil McCasland, born 1957. TMBS talks about his brother-in-law, or his brother he sometimes calls him. My brother-in-law believed Boeing killed many scientists. Blah, blah. Brother worked navigation systems for those programs for over 40 years. So what was Neil McCasland doing in the 80s? Well, Neil McCasland was a payload development engineer for the Office of Special Projects, right? A payload development engineer. What do? Well, they integrate and they manage highly classified satellite reconnaissance systems, which includes direct oversight of sensors, power, and crucially, navigation and attitude control systems. Same as a brother-in-law. In 1992, it was SOP for AFRL program directors to tell certified technicians that it was alien technology, quote unquote. Now, what was McCasland doing in 1992? McCasland was working as the assistant director for systems engineering at Special Projects 13. And then also, he went on to become a director in July of that year, working at Buckley Air Force Base as the director of mission planning for the Aerospace Data Facility. He was literally a director for the Air Force in 1992. Last brother-in-law clue, you can say. So my brother-in-law worked for TI Services since the 1950s and had experience, blah, 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 was a navigation, attitude, heading, and reference systems engineering team. But he left that program after 1976 for a more secretive program until his retirement in 2012. Well, does that match up with McCasland? It does. Plus or minus 1 year, right? So 1976 to 2012, well, 1975 to 2013, it's a difference of 2 years, right? 36 years of total service compared to 38. All right, Susan McCasland. Where was she stationed at in the 1980s when she was being chosen, when she was testing out to become a NASA astronaut? Well, Lackland Air Force Base, south of Austin, west of Houston, and also south of a lake that I know very well because I was stationed at Fort Hood in Texas, right there in Killeen, Lake Belton. Now, why is Lake Belton? Why does that matter, right? Because Lake Belton is where TMBS spaceships said that he had a sighting of a spherical UFO aircraft in 1991. TMBS spaceships. I just quit teaching at the University of Oklahoma's Advanced Radar Center. Susan McCasland. She was a physicist at Oklahoma City Air Logistics Center, Tinker Air Force Base, 1985. Tinker Air Force Base is in southeastern Oklahoma City. Guess what is right southwest of that? You guessed it. University of Oklahoma. Then there's all the mentions of Boeing and Raytheon. Boeing. Raytheon. Who do we know that worked at Boeing and Raytheon? Susan McCasland. So according to the official Air Force biography, McCasland, was commissioned in 1979, retired in 2013, which represents exactly 34 years of service. However, in his private life, McCasland calculated his career differently. On his personal Facebook page that I found, McCasland includes his 4 years as a cadet at the Air Force Academy, right? Calculating that 4 plus the 34 that he did to come up with a total of 38 years and 1 month, starting from June of 1975, ending in 2013, right? July 2013. And the only other place on the internet that you'll find anybody describing themselves as a retired 38-year active duty USAF PhD engineer, put that into Google, that quotation, retired 38-year active duty USAF PhD engineer, end quotation, and see how many results you get. You won't find any at all, except for TMB spaceships. And I doubt that McCasland's Facebook profile is on Google. I doubt that it's indexed, but it may be. But it's the only two places. It's such a rarity, right? Then you've also got where TMB spaceships list AFIT in its bio and claims that it got a PhD in engineering with AFIT. So that aligns perfectly with McCasland's actual educational background. McCasland earned his master's and doctorate degrees in astronautical engineering from MIT, specifically through a graduate student program that was assigned to him through the Air Force Institute of Technology, AFIT. TMB spaceships frequently attributes deeply sensitive aerospace military claims to fictional proxy characters, right? Usually referred to as like brother or brother-in-law. The account claimed that this brother or brother-in-law worked on navigation systems for classified programs for over 40 years, right? And what's funny is that McCasland worked on classified programs for over almost 40 years, and that included navigational systems on space vehicles and on satellites, right? When he was a payload development engineer for the Office of Special Projects, he was responsible for integrating and managing navigational payloads on classified reconnaissance systems. So that right there, it just matches up perfectly, right? And then you've got 1992 overlap, I call it. Another major breakthrough that I felt was involved the specific claim by the account TMB spaceships that it was standard operating procedure for Air Force Research Laboratory program directors to brief certain technicians on alien technology, or to refer to stuff as alien technology to technicians, right? Noting that the brother-in-law was navigation systems on these programs, and then saying that, well, directors did this. That was SOP, right? Showing a knowledge. Well, who else would know that except for either somebody who was a director or somebody that was above a director, right? 1992, McCasland completed an assignment as the Assistant Director of Systems Engineering for the Office of Special Projects 13. And then by July of 1992, he was serving as the Director of Mission Planning at the Aerospace Data Facility at Buckley Air Force Base. So that's a director, and he was a director in 1992. So whether or not that anecdote is true about that being SOP, it's still, there's a correlation there. Bam, like there's a match. One thing that is new is that I did not go over in the main body of the video is that as part of kind of debunking the proxy that I had to do to expose that the proxy was, just that. It was just a device, right? It was just a literary device, just a fabricated device used by the TMBS spaceships to hide behind. So the account said that this relative worked for Texas Instruments since the 1950s, right? Working on the Calvine UFO and all that. Left the program in 1976 for a more C-21, let's say, in 1955, right? So the actual TMBS said in the early 1950s, and then I'll just say 1955, right? Assume that somebody who would be working for Texas Instruments would have to have a bachelor's degree back then, right? So minimum age 21, just 21, 1955. Well, that would mean that by the time that they retired, this brother-in-law, by the time that they would have retired in 2012, they would have been 78 years old. And that's crazy to think about. That would not happen in the military, right? I know for a fact, but I don't think TMBS specifically says that his brother-in-law was in the military. I think maybe he just kind of said that he was working on these programs. So you can argue that, the brother-in-law was a contractor, right? If he existed. But I think more than likely it's like we can discount the entire brother-in-law being a real person, because no 78-year-old is going to work on these programs, like doing hard research and development, mechanical, machining, and everything that they had to do on these programs. No 78-year-old is going to know. They're going to be retired. They're going to be forced to retire. That's just what's going to happen. 78 years old. So you can just discount, the entire brother-in-law right then.
Okay, so great job of research there by Grider on X. That's at High Earth Orbit _. Give him a follow on X. He did a great job putting that video together, showing all the ways how this X account, TMB Spaceships, could have been the secret account of General Neil McCasland, who has been missing from his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico since February of this year, 2026. Someone that weighed in on this X account was physicist Jenny Lorraine Nilsson. She is at Quanta on X. She said, guys, if this was not McCasland, why would he stop tweeting the hour McCasland disappeared? Why did everyone on his list from March on immediately start asking him, Major General, are you okay? Everyone knew this is McCasland. If not McCasland, why McCasland shaped? And Grider replied to this and pointed out the last tweet from TMB Spaceships was made at 11:28 Mountain Time. McCasland walked out of his home at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. The tweet was made 2 minutes before he walked out of his home. And if the account is his, which I believe it is, then it is his last communication with the outside world. Wow, really great stuff there from Grider. Powerful statement about the time of the last tweet from TMB Spaceships and the time that General Neil McCasland walked out of his home, and he's never been seen or heard from since. Now, speaking of physicist Jenny Lorraine Nilsson, a lot of people have been looking forward to this, and it's finally going to happen. I am going to sit down and have a chat with Jenny Lorraine Nilsson on All Things Unexplained. We're going to be chatting soon, and I expect that video will be out in September, so you are not going to want to miss that. We're going to talk about the physics that she is working on, her own UFO encounters, and her thoughts on General McCasland and the other missing scientist. So trust me when I say you are not going to want to miss that. and I know that I am really looking forward to it. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Is Grider right? Give him a follow at highearthorbit_ on X. Is physicist Jenny Lorraine Nilsson right? Give her a follow at Quanta on X. Plus, she's going to be here on All Things Unexplained, chatting with me, and I just cannot wait. Are they both right? Is the X account Electric Propulsive Spacecraft Systems at TMB Spaceships on X? Is that General Neil McCasland? Was it General Neil McCasland? Was it General McCasland's wife? Was it both of them? Is it somebody entirely different? I encourage you to go to X, check out that account. It's got some really intriguing posts on there, all kinds of physics, diagrams, including for warp drives, spaceships. Let me know what you think about that account. And now I want to highlight just a few comments from my last McCasland video. Let's start with Sci-Fi No More on YouTube. They said, thanks. Nobody else covers this story, FYI. And you probably already know this. It's the far side of the moon because that side gets sunlight half the time. Thanks for that comment, Sci-Fi No More. I really appreciate you. I was telling somebody just the other day, covering these stories, these missing persons, these missing scientists, General McCasland, it really has been some of the most rewarding, personally rewarding stories that I've ever talked about because I feel like I'm actually making a real difference here. So thank you for commenting that. I really appreciate you. And one thing I told Sci-Fi No More, or I was telling somebody this the other day too, you know, I found the clip where McCasland, I believe it was 2013, he was addressing the Air Force. And he was talking about the technology that the AFRL was working on. And he said, we are doing surveillance of approximately 20,000 objects in an area of space, 10 to the 22nd power cubic miles. And that is a staggering, vast amount of space. If you turn that into a cube and put Earth in the center, each side would be over 10 million miles long. Each side would be a fourth of the way to the sun. Now you tell me what in 2013, what exactly was the Air Force doing surveillance on in an area of space that vast? What were these 20,000 objects? I mean, at that distance, that is way beyond satellites, the moon, basically everything we know of. I mean, I guess we could throw in some asteroids and meteors and that sort of thing. But was the Air Force really conducting surveillance of these? I mean, I don't know. We did have a user on X recently, and I can't remember if I posted about this, but I need to. And they connected McCasland to an academic paper that was released quite a while back. And that paper was on potentially Earth-threatening meteors. Maybe asteroids were in there. And they thanked McCasland at the beginning of that paper as a major consultant on planetary defense and planetary threats. Really fascinating, especially given what we know about the other missing scientists and officials. Nero VX on YouTube said, thank you. There is some news, but if outcome is like Amy or Melissa and most of the UK 20 scientists in 80s under Project Star Wars, wonder why they are searching now. I know we're just going to have to hope for the best with McCasland, with Reza, Garcia, so many others that are missing. We know the sad story of Melissa Casias. She, unfortunately, they discovered her body, gun beside the body, and she shared so many commonalities with these others, leaving on foot, leaving behind cell phones. She even wiped her cell phones back to factory settings. So we just have to hope for the best, continue to hope for the best, and pray for the best outcome for McCasland and Reza and others. At Red Mist 78 said, still wonder, I mean, UFOs have been around since the beginning of time. And as far as in America, probably Roswell. So like at this point, 2026, why still keep it secret? Still don't have alien technology to use unless only certain people are using it. But if we're friends with them, why aren't we using their technology to win wars? Or do other enemy countries also have the same technology? But the missing scientist is definitely strange. They all left pretty much in the same way, except for that one woman when she was out hiking with her friend and disappeared into thin air. So many questions. I don't think we'll ever get any of them answered unless there's a full disclosure We know how the government works, so it'll probably be redacted 99%. Great points there by Red Mist. I want to encourage you, Red Mist 78 and everybody else. If you haven't read Day After Roswell by Colonel Corso, Philip J. Corso, check it out. I consider him one of the first true military whistleblowers. And he talks about this extreme compartmentalization after Roswell and how basically it made it impossible to find any of this stuff, any of this crash retrieval items and technology. So again, at TMB Spaceships on X, was it General Neil McCasland? Let me know what you think. All right, Unexplained Ones, let's get into this giveaway stuff before I let you go. We've got a lot of great stuff to give away, like signed books by best-selling author Patricia Cornwell, Disney author David Koning, Bev Vincent, who writes in the Stephen King multiverse, friend of the show Lee Starks, Colonel Drew Miller, and much more. Just be a sub, it's free, leave a comment, and that's all it takes to be entered into the giveaways. And I really appreciate you being a part of the Unexplained Ones. All right, Unexplained Ones, do me a favor, take some time off your screen this week, spend some time outside, reconnect with the woods, reconnect with the sky. You may not find Bigfoot, you may not spot a UFO, but you might just find something even more important out there, and that's yourself. Take care, everybody. And as always, keep the families, friends, and loved ones of these missing persons, of these affected scientists and officials in our thoughts and prayers. Thanks, everybody.
All things unexplained.
So some of that I think, sir, we'll save for closed session.